Lisa, it is really fantastic to see you. Um, Lisa Casaus is a really accomplished artist and
Thank you.
photographer, I believe. And I was fortunate enough to have a preview of your international conference session with Jocelyn Wright about design
I,
principles. So I think you guys might be presenting the Saturday morning of the conference, perhaps, for the reflective practice special interest group. And uh, people who go to your session will come away with all kinds of ideas about how to take really great photos. And I think you guys will be challenging them to take photos throughout the conference. Is that right?
that's right. So the point of the presentation is to kind of prepare the attendees to kind of start thinking about how to design their photos more intentionally and hopefully have better results than just pointing, click 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 click. And we'll be providing some practice prompts to get a basis of, okay, this is how this might work. And then we'll kind of set them loose with some challenges, some prompts that they can use and during the weekend, take photos using what they've learned in that presentation.
When I saw the preview in Gwangju, it was one of the most useful and stimulating sessions I've been to. So I think people will really get a lot out of it.
Oh, thank you. That's high praise.
So I really encourage people to go to it. And I
Oh,
thought
wow. Well,
today maybe we could talk about a few pointers about taking conference pictures, which is something a lot of us who go to conferences all do a lot of. And this will be our first in-person international conference in a few years. So the photos are important. So I thought that I would be the guinea pig, the test
okay.
subject.
Sacrificial lamb.
Yes, that's what it is. And share a few of my photos from past conferences.
Yeah.
So this is a photo I took a couple of conferences ago, I think. This is the entry to Sukmyong University and to the foyer, which will also be a central part of our conference this time. And I think this was Saturday morning, and what I wanted to do was just capture like, oh wow, here is the venue. I am here. So I think I zoomed right out and took this very wide angle photo where I was trying to get everything into the photo. So
Right.
Lisa, hit me with your feedback on this photo.
Well, I think as a functional photo, it's doing its job because, like you said, the point was to get a shot of where you're going to go, and you want as much information as you want. If we're talking
But I
about,
also wanted it to look impressive, not just show the information.
yes, so I have a line. So if you advance, you will see a line. This is the horizon line. And actually, it could be a little bit lower. I put it right in the middle because it feels like, where the building kind of like swoops down is kind of that. You've got that
Sorry.
horizon line. So usually in general, you want to avoid having that right in the middle, dead center. Cutting an image in half, it's not bad necessarily, it's just not visually that interesting. So it's always kind of better to try to move up or down, or the ratio would be, and I believe, I don't know the exact numbers because I'm bad at math, but you want the foreground, what's closest to you, to be have more, what's the word I want, more position in the frame. So your solution for that one is you can crop. Horizon line is one thing. You can solve that pretty easily by cropping. And then the next slide, you're also having some competition because you have this like really interesting building right in the center. You want to look at that, right? but then you have this really interesting yellow, bright yellow car, which is actually quite beautiful. So you have this, like your eye doesn't really know where to rest.
Mm.
And my thought was the building is more important. So if you look at the next slide, I just cropped out the car.
Mm.
And now you are just, okay, there's a building right in front of me. These really, you have the really nice lines of the the walkway, the bricks kind of leading you there. And then there's some people dotted around that give you some movement. So the solution for that was just cropping out some of the extra.
I'm doing some of the big zoom out that I did. But I think, yes, this does what I wanted it to do. It makes the Sukmyong building look really impressive and gives that kind of wow factor of, okay, we're here. Here is the conference. And it really it really draws me towards the entry to the conference. So thank you for your great improvements to my photo.
Well, you're welcome. It was a good basis. And I would mention that um dimensions is also can be helpful because your phone probably has the settings of the 4:3 ratio,
Mhm.
which is, I think this is more of a 4:3 ratio. But if you go towards the 9:16 ratio, which is wider, you'll probably have better results with
Mm.
wide dots. Um, so that's just one tip, I think, for viewers is just you can decide what you want to use, but
Mm.
sometimes you can choose one that will fit your purpose better.
Okay. I
Yeah.
think I chose that because my phone said photo quality will be better with the 4:3 ratio, but is that not so much for wide angle? That's for more looking at things a bit more closely with the normal lens.
Well, I actually think the 4:3 ratio, it's easier to compose.
Mm.
But when you have the 16:9, 9:16, you have more that you can crop. And it just feels kind of cinematic too.
Mm. Mm.
So I think for landscapes, that's really helpful. But if you're kind of composing like maybe a still life, a
Mm.
4:3 is going to be a much better bet.
Mm.
It's
Okay.
kind of like context is also important.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, it looks, I mean, just a little bit of cropping. Um,
Well, I feel
and
excited because we'll be there soon.
yes, it's coming up. And we'll
Oh,
be in the main hall. I think this was the main hall.
I'm not sure if we'll be in this room, but we'll be in a room somewhat like this room at least. And I think what I wanted to do, so this was the opening ceremony before the plenary address. I think what I wanted to do was just capture, the number of people and the scale of the event and
Mm.
how it felt like we were all there together and so much was going on and it was quite exciting. So this is the photo I ended up with.
Right. And I think you have a pretty clear like focal point with that screen. And
Mm.
that's pretty nice. Also because the color is blue and then it's contrasting with this red. Um and again, I think that wide angle would help with
Mm. Mm.
capturing the that spread.
Mm.
So what happened with this one, I took this one and I felt like that, this beautiful lights at the top. That ceiling is actually quite interesting,
Mm.
but it's distracting
Mm.
from the screen. So my first step was crop that out. I think if you, yeah, so I feel like that's kind of distracting me. And then you have these interesting plates on the backs of the chairs, which are
Mm.
also slightly they're just kind of drawing my attention away from that. So
Mm.
I decided let's crop those out.
Mm.
So this first one is just cropping out the ceiling, and then I cropped that plate on the bottom, and you get that more of a wide angle
Mm.
shot, more of a 16:9 ratio. Um, it could just be that I also prefer that, and I think this can be a matter of preference, but I think you don't. I think creating a good composition is often a process of simplifying,
Mm,
trying to cut out the clutter that is distracting.
mm,
So when you're shooting, you're kind of trying to position yourself where, okay, I might be able to crop this later, but how can I position this so I don't have to crop
mm, mm.
as much? So it just kind of saves time, maybe. Um, but there's nothing wrong with cropping after the fact.
I think you're totally right though, because when I look at this one, um, the room does look interesting to me. It feels like a spaceship or something.
It
Um,
does.
and it doesn't really capture what I wanted, which is much more the feeling of everybody, the people in the room, and being together as the conference begins. I feel that this
Mhm.
captures that much more.
And I think a lot of when you're taking a picture in a conference like this, you are kind of limited by your environment and your circumstance. You're sitting in a specific spot.
Mm,
I would also recommend in this situation maybe standing up, moving
mm,
around, trying to get angles from the extreme angles, and maybe even getting up close and things like that. But you're not always able to do that in this environment.
I guess during the opening ceremony, we can't have everybody stand up and get all
Exactly.
the best angles.
Exactly. So I think people will be limited by those things.
Mm,
And it's important to be aware, but you kind of you just try, take a picture, take another,
mm,
and just think about shooting different angles, and you should
mm.
come up with one that fits your needs, I would hope.
Yeah, I like that advice that you also gave in the session, that if you take a middle picture and then also up and down and left and right, that
Exactly.
will give you more choices later.
Exactly. You have, I would call it the B paparazzi. That's why they take so many pictures. And these days we don't worry about film, so
Mm.
just delete them later.
In
That's my
Korea, we just need to worry about the noise that our phones have to make, the clicking.
that's true. Yeah, that's a really good point.
I think if you hold your hand up against the speaker quite tightly, it covers up the noise, which you should
It
never do for
helps.
bad reasons, but
Yeah,
during a session, sometimes it's helpful.
right. You don't want to draw attention to yourself. Don't mind me. I'm just popping.
Shall we move to the next one? Um,
Yes, our lovely Maria.
yes, here's Maria Lisak doing a fantastic presentation at, I think, our most recent in-person international conference. So I think here I just wanted to capture Maria being a wonderful presenter and so animated and interesting. And I think I was probably also trying to save her presentation slide for later, which a lot of
Yeah.
us do. So I think this is probably the kind of photo I take the most often at conferences. So it might not have the most in it, but it's
Mhm.
the kind of photo I'm taking a lot.
Exactly. Well, it's a functional photo where the main purpose is for information as opposed to aesthetic value.
Mm. But
Um,
I do want to have it also as a photo of the presenter. In this case, I
right.
would like to have a really nice photo of Maria presenting.
Yes. And I think that you have quite a good basis. Um, but this is a good example of framing. There's
Mm,
a concept called framing where you use, um, like very literally, you might use a picture frame or a window frame, um, and position your focal point, in this instance your human, your person, within that frame, um, optimally.
Mm,
So in this situation, and unfortunately our keynote didn't translate very well. There's this yellow line here,
mm.
which it should have been an arrow. Okay, it was an arrow at one point, but so you see, here I have this kind of areas where the human figure is always where our eyes are drawn, but
Mm,
we also have this human figure and this text. So you want to look at the text on the whiteboard, and you want to look at the text on the projector, and you want to look at the human figure. So your eyes are kind of just whoo, and then you have some space behind her, which is kind of just, you're just all over the place.
mm, mm,
So in this case, the text is important, but if we want to get the focus in on her, then we can crop. So if you move to the next slide, I've cropped it, that back, just remove some of that space. And then
mm,
her arms are really nice actually, because they kind of direct you towards the text, and then the text can kind of bring you back. But that yellow line, unfortunately, is kind of just signifying that, well, her head is intersecting the frame.
mm,
So the solution for this would be, while taking pictures, trying to just move your camera, move your viewpoint slightly to the left or slightly to the right, so that
mm,
her head would be within the frame, as opposed to in bisecting it or intersecting it. And so this is very, it's very easy to do these kind of things, but those are the things that get your eye stuck,
mm, mm,
and that's what we want to avoid.
mm. I think that's a really great takeaway. And now every time I go into a session, I'm going to be choosing my seat based on, ooh, do I think that the edge of the projector screen is going to be running into their head? So we're we're all going to be vying for the same seats. But I guess people move around, so
Yeah, I think even just a slight change can make a difference.
mm,
I think if you just shift yourself, or shift your camera, it can make all the difference. But it can also just be a really fun and creative way to bring uh, emphasis to a specific point, where you see, oh, there's this window, oh, there's this object, can I line it so that the object is within that frame?
mm,
And when you start seeing that, it becomes quite exciting, actually.
mm,
So you can do that with shapes. You can do that with, well, well, of course they're all shapes, but you can do that with objects. You can do that with light,
mm, mm,
and that's usually the most exciting. That's what excites me, is when you see light and shadow. It's like, oh, it's so beautiful.
mm.
You can turn trash into art.
If we
Yeah,
want those sunbeams, we might have to go to the early morning and the evening sessions of the
right.
class.
And that is one problem that we will have in these fluorescently lighted rooms,
Mm,
is we don't have access to optimal lighting. And I think really that is what kind of makes a great photograph, because when you have that light, it separates things. The fluorescent light just kind of flattens everything out.
yes.
Um,
We will
so
be at a very beautiful campus. So I haven't included too many campus photos. People will have a chance to take some very beautiful ones, though. I think they'll have to go to your session at the conference, though, to learn about some principles for taking those.
oh, thanks. Oh,
Oh,
see, there's my arrow.
okay, sorry. Yes, that makes it very clear what you mean.
Okay, hurrah. Yeah, maybe that line. Um, and so this is the last one you have.
Mm,
And I actually really like this photo. I didn't have too much to nitpick about. Um, Besides, there is like, see, the one of the great things about this photo is you have a very clear foreground. You've
mm,
got a middle ground where the people are, again, our lovely Maria, And then you have a background.
Julian Warmington there doing a very beautiful pose for the
Yeah, that's a
photo.
good pose. Yeah, the only thing that I would wish were not there were those people in the background, because they are some visual clutter. They
Mm.
are not they're not adding to this. So usually my solution for that is waiting until people move. Just like, okay, hold the pose. Or just, okay, leg down, and then, okay, they're gone, ready, shoot. So just trying to avoid distracting things in the background. But I think, and I didn't want to crop it, because if I had cropped his leg, we would have lost that pose. But I think if he had his leg down, I would have cropped it. Cropped that blue area a little bit. But one thing I really like about this is you captured these there's a kind of a red triangle where this red shirt, and then this red banner, and then you have a red box. And that makes a triangle which your eye is following, just ding 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 ding. And you have this, what is it, table with text, because our eyes love text. So we look at the face, we look at the color, we look at the text, and it just keeps us moving throughout. The only thing that, like we said, is kind of distracting is his leg is pointing us out, and then we see this kind of, people in the background. So solution, crop that, but then we have a man without a leg. So yeah, that I decided not to go with that solution, even though it's one way to do it. But I think otherwise this has nice natural lighting. And you've got some nice movement, you've got a nice pose, and we have our lovely KOTESOL members. So I thought this was a really good one. Yeah.
I'm very fond of this photo. Unfortunately, I know that Maria won't be at the conference in person this time. She'll be there online. So we can't recreate it at this conference, and we've moved our conference to the spring, so we won't be having elections at the conference either. But hopefully someday I can recapture some version of this photo with Julian and Maria.
Well, that could be an interesting to recreate your photos. That might, that could be an interesting challenge. Recreate a piece of art using KOTESOL member.
That sounds really fun, and it sounds like if you got a really good photo, because many of us see each other again and again at the international conference, you could maybe recreate it several times in different years. That would be interesting follow-up. I feel like I have developed as a conference photographer so much during this little talk, like much more than in all of my years of attending conferences. So thank you so much for all of your advice. It was really fantastic. And I think I've said many times how wonderful your session is. So I really encourage people to go check it out.
Thanks for the opportunity to kind of go over some of these things, because we are slightly pressed for time. We're trying to fit a lot of information in. I think it's an 80-minute session. So we kind of have to bing, 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 move along. And some of this information takes years to really develop. So I'm glad that you got a lot out of it, even though we were moving along.
I thought it was very rich, and it was a really great starting point for improving my photo taking.
Oh, good. Well, that's wonderful news. I'm so happy. I would just say, make sure your battery is charged. Maybe bring extra battery. Make sure you have moved your, update your cloud and everything, so you have enough space on your.
That's always my issue.
You never want to, I don't have enough space. And maybe wear comfortable pants, because I recommend squatting. When you're doing the paparazzi, you need to move up, move down. Sometimes you even lie on your stomach on the floor. you gotta move for your art. So
I think Sukmyong is a fairly clean venue, so lying on the floor shouldn't be too damaging.
hopefully not that drastic, but I have been known to do that when excited, about a shot. So just be prepared if you see that opportunity, that you're able to take it. That's coming from an artist, but you might not want to be getting down on the ground or even on one knee in your presentation clothes. So maybe not the best advice, but
it depends on context. It always depends on context, but we do want fantastic photos of the conference. So I just want to encourage anyone who has watched this video and is at the conference taking really great photos. If you share them on social media, it would be really great if you add the hashtag KOTESOL 2023 to everything. That will let everyone else see your wonderful photos. Did you want to let people know where to find you online? Or if you don't want people to find you online, you don't have to, but you want people to find your art or anything?
I have a website. It's just my name, lisacasaus.com. And I have paintings, and I do have a new series that is photographs. It's installation. So I have pieces that I painted with ink and acrylic, and then I took photos of them within a very interesting space. Lots of windows. Windows important. So if people want inspiration, that is one option to go look at that. I hope that will help everyone who has the goal of improving anything but photos. Yeah. And teaching.
I think there's a lot of us who want to improve photos and teaching. So
everything.
Go check out your website.
See you on Saturday.
See you Saturday.